Hello, children. Welcome back. It's been a while since I last spoke to you. I hope you're all doing fine. And let us continue our discussion of third chapter, that is ruling the countryside. Okay. So in our last videos, we discussed the three different systems of revenue collection in the early period of British rule. We talked about permanent settlement, we talked about Mahalwari system, and we talked about Rotwari system. And we also realized that all these systems were very oppressive and exploited the farmers. And it did not end there. The exploitation of farmers did not end there. The Britishers did more damage to Indian cultivators in various ways. So let us discuss how they caused harm to our agriculture. So after exploring India, the Britishers saw that India has a lot of fertile land which could be used to grow crops that they needed. Okay, so they saw India as a land where they could grow crops which they needed for their factories. 18th century marked the beginning or the rapid rise of industrialization, and British started producing things on a large scale in their factories, and they require supply of raw materials. So when something is produced in a factory, it is done very quickly, and the factory requires a lot of raw material. And England is a small country, and they could not grow all the raw material there, and they saw India as a place where they could grow crops that were needed back home. So let us see what were the crops and other things that they wanted our Indian farmers to grow. So the East India Company realized that the countryside could grow the crops that Europe required, and they encouraged the cultivation of opium and indigo. What is opium? Opium is actually a drug that is used to treat certain diseases. It is known as Nalla Mandu in Telugu. Okay, and indigo is a dye. Dye means a color applied on cloths. It is a blue color dye. Okay, and it was obtained from plants. Okay, indigo plants, and they encouraged the cultivation of these two, opium and indigo. And not only that, they encouraged people to grow jute in Bengal, tea in Assam, sugarcane in Uttar Pradesh, earlier it was known as United Provinces, wheat in Punjab, cotton in Maharashtra, and rice in Madras. All these are old names actually, mostly. So Madras means actually it included our region also, and Punjab included today's Punjab, Haryana, and even parts of Pakistan. Okay, so these are rough areas actually, so don't think that Bengal means only today's Bengal. Okay, so what is jute? Jute is a fiber that is used for making bags. Okay, and tea, tea is something that we consume daily. And then sugarcane is needed to make sugar. And then cotton is needed to make cloth. And wheat and rice are actually meant for consumption by humans. They are food crops. So with the exception of wheat and rice, the others are commercial crops. They are produced to make money, not for meeting the food needs. Okay, and the Britishers encouraged the cultivators across India to grow these crops. Okay, and we'll focus mainly on indigo because this is one thing that actually made the farmers, the cultivators, very miserable. Okay, so our topic of discussion is how indigo plantation was done in India and how it made the farmers very poor. So indigo is a plant that grows primarily in tropical region. So this is confined to tropical zone. So tropical zone means the region between Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. Okay, that means region on either side of equator, that is called tropical zone or tropical region. And we know tropical zones are hot, and this climate is suitable for growth of indigo. And this indigo plant was this indigo powder or dye was in huge demand in Europe. Okay, and it could not be grown in Europe because Europe falls mostly in temperate zone. So Europe is mostly above Tropic of Cancer, and that is actually colder climate. And unfortunately, this indigo plant doesn't grow well in that climate. And in Europe, actually, they were using another dye called another color, another plant called woad, but that was not as attractive as the indigo produced in tropical climate. So if you compare the colors of indigo and woad, indigo looks much brighter. Indigo is basically, bright blue color. The color that you see on jeans, most jeans, is actually indigo color. Okay, bright blue color. And so because what they produced in Europe, that was known as woad, was not as good as indigo, there was a lot of demand for indigo grown in tropical climates. And it was produced, or it was grown in various parts of the world. So the French people, Portuguese, the Spanish, these people actually made colonies all over the world. So the French people, they began cultivation of this indigo in Saint Domingue. It is in Caribbean islands, or what we today call as West Indies. And the Portuguese made a colony in Brazil. Now we call it as Brazil, and there also they grew indigo. And the English people, they settled not just in India, they conquered various parts of the world. And there is one area called Jamaica, again this is also in West Indies. And then the Spanish people, they settled in Venezuela, that is in South America. So in all these places, indigo was grown. Okay, and the indigo plantations came up in many parts of North America also. And the demand for indigo grew very rapidly between 1783 and 1789. But unfortunately, the production was not catching up with the demand. There was drop in the production, but the demand was very huge, okay, in Europe for this indigo color. And let me show you the map. So this is the map where woad was grown. I told you woad was not as bright. So you can see that it was grown mostly in these areas. That is what we call temperate zone above Tropic of Cancer. Okay, let us see the next map. These are the areas where indigo was grown. You can see these are Caribbean islands, West Indies, Jamaica, and then other Saint Domingue were located here. And this is Venezuela, and this is Brazil. This entire country is Brazil, and this is the part where indigo was grown. And you can see this is all India, where indigo was grown in large quantities. And not only here, there are other parts of world where it was grown. Let us see. So from the last decades of 18th century, indigo cultivation in Bengal expanded very rapidly. So because of the huge demand, the Britishers encouraged Indian farmers to grow indigo, and it expanded very rapidly in Bengal. And in 1788, about 30% of indigo that Britain imported was from India. But by 1810, it has gone up to 95%. See, in a span of just 22 years, England was importing almost all its indigo from India. Okay, earlier it was only 30%, but now England was relying on India for supply of indigo color, indigo dye. And what happened was, because it had so much market, many officials of East India Company, they left their jobs and they started cultivating indigo. They became planters in India. And many people from England came to India, not as employees of East India Company, but to start cultivating India. start cultivating indigo in India. See what happened. So what were the systems employed for cultivation? See, we have a long discussion in your textbook on how indigo was actually cultivated, how it was harvested, and how finally the dye was extracted from the plant. I am not going to explain all that process because it is actually the science behind the cultivation of indigo. But here we are not going into that because we no longer cultivate indigo and we no longer require this indigo product. Now it is replaced by synthetic dyes. So let us not go into the discussion, although it is covered elaborately in your textbook. Let us focus on the historical perspective. That means the system that was employed for growing indigo. So there were two systems employed. Those were known as Nij and Roti. Just like the three systems of revenue collection that we discussed earlier, there were two systems under which this indigo plantation was done. Okay, let us see. Under the first system, Nij system, the planter produced the indigo in the lands that he directly controlled. That means either he bought lands or he took lands on rent and he cultivated indigo. Okay, so this was a simple straightforward method. So what they did was the planter either bought lands or took them on lease and he did all the work. That means he sowed the seeds, then he harvested the crop. It doesn't mean that he did it alone. Of course, he employed laborers, but he took responsibility for the whole process, cultivation. And then the second is Roti system. It's like a contract system. So what is the problem with the Nij system? It can be done only on the lands that you directly control, either the lands that you own or that you rent. And unfortunately, they did not have too many lands available for doing this kind of cultivation. So they came up with a bright idea, a new idea, that is Roti system. And there is one more problem with the Nij system. It required lot of labor, lot of tools. Okay, plows and other things were needed, and mostly the time of cultivation of this indigo coincided with rice cultivation. So it was very difficult to get the labor and also to procure the tools for cultivation, and even lands were not available in plenty. So what they did was they devised a new system. And one more thing is that they employed only 25% of cultivation of indigo was under this system, and the remaining 75% was cultivated under a new system known as Roti system. You know, Rot means farmer. So the Roti system is like a contract system. So what is this system? They made the farmers to sign a contract. It was known as Satta. And under the contract, the farmers have to take up cultivation of indigo in their own lands or in the lands under their control. So suppose a farmer has let us say 100 acres of land. Of course, it was unrealistic. Let us say the farmer has say 10 acres of land. So he had to commit at least 25%. That means 2.5 acres of that land for cultivation of indigo. This is one condition. And then those who signed the contract got cash advances. So people are very easily tempted when they are given money. So that is what the Britishers did. These planters, they paid advances, they paid money. Okay, even before the crop was sown, they gave money to the farmers. They offered money, and they offered seeds also. So the planter has to take that money and seeds, and then they plant the seeds. Then they water the crop. They take care of it. Then they employ labor to harvest the crop. They have to do everything. Okay, so the planters have no other responsibility. They simply give some money and the seeds, and the responsibility of raising the crop, harvesting it, taking care of it, all lies with the farmer. Okay, and the road has to take care of everything else. So when the crop was harvested, the planter took the crop and he paid some money, and he paid some new loan, and again the whole process started all over again. So what's the problem here? The problem is that the farmers were trapped in debt. So whatever money they got after selling the crop, they had to pay the old loans Again, they were taking new loans. Again, after they get the harvest, they have to pay back the old loans and again take new loans. So in a way, they were trapped in debt forever. Okay, and they were paid very low price. Actually, this indigo was in huge demand, but the farmers cannot sell their indigo to any other person because they have a contract, because they entered into a contract with the planters. They could not sell this crop to anyone else. They had to sell the crop to the planters only, and that too at the price decided by them. So they received very little price for their crop, and so they needed more money and they took it in the form of loan, and they were trapped in debt forever. And another problem was that the planters made them grow this indigo on the best land they had. The most fertile land was allotted for indigo plantation. And there is one more problem. The indigo used to take deep roots. So even if you want to get rid of this indigo and cultivate rice again, it was not possible because the land lost its fertility, and because of the deep roots of indigo plant, it took so many years to bring it back to normal cultivation of rice. Okay, so these were the problems faced by the farmers. Okay, let us see. So what happened was, after a few years, people realized that this indigo plantation was very oppressive. One thing is, they were trapped in debt. Now, as per the contract, they could not they could not drop it all together and come back to rice. They have to grow indigo on the best lands, and they were paid very little money, and they realized that this is a very bad system, and they actually they rebelled against the planters, and they attacked the indigo factories, the factories where the place where the indigo plant harvest was converted into indigo dye or color. And those who worked for the planters were socially boycotted. So it has become such a big rebellion that those who were working for the planters were boycotted. So they were not allowed, they were not given any services in the society, and the agents of the planters, they were known as latials, they were actually beaten up by the farmers. And the most of the farmers, they decided that they will not take up indigo plantation anymore. Okay, and even the jamindars and village headmen supported the roads because they knew that this is a very suppressive system, and they knew that these planters were actually oppressing the farmers in various ways. And in a place called Barasat, the magistrate or district collector Ashley Eden issued a notice stating that ryots wouldn't be compelled to accept indigo contracts. He said, okay, if you don't want to grow indigo, okay, no problem, you can grow whatever you want. There is no compulsion on our part. And the government also set up a commission called Indigo Commission to look into the system of this indigo cultivation, and the commission held the planters guilty. So after so many inquiries, they said that this system is very oppressive. This contract system called Ryoti system was very oppressive, and they said that the planters are guilty, and they allowed the planters to grow, the farmers, the ryots to grow whatever crops they wanted to. Okay, and after this blue rebellion, indigo production collapsed in Bengal, but the planters, they settled elsewhere. They shifted their operations to Bihar, and there it continued for roughly another 50 years. Okay, and in fact, when Gandhiji returned from South Africa, he was actually invited to Bihar to help farmers end this indigo cultivation there. In a place called Champaran, people were still cultivating indigo under these contracts, and Gandhiji went to this Champaran and helped them stop that cultivation, and actually he liberated them from this indigo plantation. That we'll discuss in our later topics. So this is how indigo cultivation has come to an end in India. Okay, I hope you understood. Why we discussed this indigo plantation was it was very oppressive, that is one reason, and large parts of India actually cultivated this indigo. Okay, and earlier we talked about so many famines, especially the Bengal famine and all that. One reason for these famines was that because the Britishers were encouraging Indians to cultivate commercial crops, people started cultivating these crops instead of food crops. So what happens? Most people were cultivating only these commercial crops like cotton or indigo or opium, and smaller amounts of land were allotted for cultivation of rice and wheat. So naturally there was less food produced, and obviously there were so many famines. Okay, so in a way the British policies were responsible for so many famines, and I already told you more than 1 crore people died in Bengal famine in those days. Famine means a condition where people didn't have enough to eat and people died of hunger. More than 1 crore people died of hunger. It was not just one famine, so many famines took place in that period, and one of the reasons was this British policy of encouraging people to grow commercial crops. Okay, so that's it. If you read your textbook, there are a few topics which are left out deliberately. As I told you, there is an elaborate discussion of how indigo was produced that I did not discuss because it is only the process that they explained. Then they talked about similar revolts in other parts of the world. That also I deliberately omitted. I covered only the essential topics in this chapter, and in case you have any doubts while reading this chapter or reading those topics which I left out, you can send me an email annapurna.cbse@gmail.com. This is the email to which you can send your doubts or questions, and I'll answer each and every one of your questions. Okay, so please go through the textbook, read these topics, and in the next video we'll discuss the end of the chapter questions and other bits. Okay, thank you.